Morning. Am I audible to guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Wait. Okay. Okay, today I'll just continue the backpropagation part. Down. Wait. Hello, am I still online?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Something happened. You can see the whiteboard, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what is a backpropagation? Last class, I told you that there are many different learning rules. So we are mainly concerned about backpropagation here because this is the supervised rule or learning rule using what? We train our ANN. Okay, so basically it's a supervised learning model and it's the training process to train your artificial neural network. So what's the main purpose here? You will have your model, then you will pass feed forward all inputs. Okay, so as you know, your one input, the whatever input value you will have here, you will have a hidden layer, at least one hidden layer for ANN, then you will have a output. So each of these neurons will calculate the output, then it will send it to the next layers of the neuron. So ultimately what it will do, it will calculate the error. Okay, calculate error. Since it's a supervised training, that means you already know the label or you will already know the output. What should be the actual output? Then you will see what is the difference between your predicted minus actual. Okay, so if it is too high, the main purpose of it is to reduce the error. So you will back propagate the error. Okay, now this weight updation, when you propagate the error, you are going to update each of the weights associated with the hidden layers. Okay, so how you are going to do it is with the help of gradient descent. Gradient descent. So what it does, basically, it's a so with the help of gradient descent, you are going to update the weights both in output layer and the hidden layers. Okay, gradient descent basically finds the minimum function. It finds the minimum of a function. Now in our case, what we are trying to reduce? We are trying to reduce the error. So with the help of gradient descent, we are going to find or minimize the error function. Okay. So for the gradient descent, remember for your network, we have three updatable things, two weights and a bias, correct? Then we have another thing is the learning rate. So gradient descent update your weights with the help of your learning rate. Suppose this is your global minimum, or sometimes it is also called loss function. Okay, loss function, global loss. Okay, so here is the increase in weight, and this portion, if you come down, it will be decreased weight. Okay, so suppose you are somewhere here. Okay, now you have to know for each weight how it is going to reduce the error. So whenever you will update the value, sometimes it might go upward or it might go downward. Okay, if it goes upward, that means it will give a direction in which it should go down, whether it should come down or come up. Okay, if your point is somewhere here, you might need to come down. Okay, suppose you are here, then maybe you have to come up, and like that. Okay, now what your learning rate does. Okay, I'll come to that part too. So basically we have to reduce the error, and what is the function for that? Error equal to half of reduction minus actual. So since you have this square term here, that means doesn't matter whether your error is negative or what. It will always give you the positive value for the error because of this square term. Now this half part is just to just added to just make a bit easier to find the derivatives. So what gradient descent do, it find a derivative of the particular way. Okay, so gradient descent updates your weight values with the help of this function. Okay, suppose this is your I, or you can say delta I. Okay, weight update will be just wi. This is your old one, then this is your new one minus learning rate delta L. You can also say delta E, doesn't matter, W. Okay, just keep it E, it will be same. So you need to find this delta E by delta W portion. Okay, so calculating this is a bit complicated. It mainly uses chain rule. Okay, so what happens here, you also have a learning rate. Okay, I'll come to this part too. Learning rate is very important thing here. Okay, so just come to this graph again. So if you have a positive slope, that means you need to increase the weight. Okay, then your negative slope will indicate that there is a decrease in weight. So your aim will be to find this zero slope, which will show you the appropriate weight. So our aim will be just to find here. So what is this learning rate is doing? You need to define the learning rate, right? So it's a hyperparameter. Okay, this new is your learning rate. Okay, and it is your hyperparameter. So it will control how much weight we need to adjust so that the error is less. Okay, it will just control how much weight we need to adjust with respect to the gradient descent loss. So lower the value will define that a slower travel towards downward slope here. Okay, so this portion, why learning rate is important, because if your learning rate is too slow, that means various small updates will be there. Okay, if your learning rate is too small, then it will require many updates before reaching your minimum point. Now, if your learning rate is too high, the optimal learning rate swiftly reaches the minimum points. That means it might not study or learn all the things. Okay, so we have to choose a learning rate just the right amount so that it swiftly comes down but not too much. Okay, if slow learning rate means from here, maybe one update you did here, then next update will be here, next update will be here, next update will be here, the process will be too slow. If you make it too high, maybe it will shoot like from here to here it jump, then again from here to here it jump, then again from here jump, jump, then finally it will come down. Okay, so too large learning rate will cause drastic updates, okay, which will lead to the divergent behavior. So we want just the right. So again, I'm saying it's experimental. If normally learning rate is 0.001, okay, but it's again depends on your application process. Okay, so just remember we do weight update here. Okay, this portion we also say as delta W. Okay, so suppose we have a function here. So this will be your output. Okay, so for this one, maybe W1, W2, W4, similarly W5, W6, W7, W8. So each one will have some particular weights, correct? And again, first, this is your input. So first you are going to maybe 2 or 3. So this input will come to here. So you are going to calculate the output with the help of same function W1x plus B. Okay, then you are going to use an activation function. So if whatever will be the output, then it will give it to the activation function. Maybe it's a sigmoid function. So sigmoid function equation is 1 plus e power x. So whatever value you will get here, or net, we say net output, so you will get this net output here. Okay, then whatever value you will get here, so that will be fed to the hidden layer. Okay, again for the hidden layer same process will be done, then you will get to the output. So finally you are going to calculate the error, and then you will see how much weight update you need to done. So again, after calculating the error, it will send back. Okay, so when you send back, it's a bit lengthy process. I can give you the thing. So from this delta E, suppose you have an error, just for example 0.2 or something. Okay, for this output is this 0.2, and for this output maybe 0.1. Okay, so you have to calculate the total error. Total error will be 0.2 plus 0.1. Okay, 0.3. Okay, that means this much portion you have to propagate it back. Okay, so here you have to find out delta E total by delta weight. Now it will go to each of these weights back. So maybe you will start for the weight 5 only. Okay, so this derivation you cannot directly find it. So we use the output chain rule. Okay, so according to chain rule, see, we have different equations. Like one of the equation is total output is output of maybe O1 and O2. Okay, then we also has the equation for your sigmoid function. Then we also have a equation for this, the net output one. So okay, so based on that, we just divide it like E total divided by E output of maybe the first one, just take it output of O1. Then you can do E output of O1. This is called chain rule. I guess you guys already know about it from your maths class. Delta of net O1. Okay, then again this is net O1 will be your delta 5. So this derivation we can represent in this form. Okay, that means you have to put all these values here, then only you can find this total derivative portion. Okay, it's a bit long process. Then I can give you a link to find out how we calculate this. Okay, and I also have a video on that. I'll give the link. I forgot. So anyways, this is all about backpropagation. At least you should know how it works. Is the concept clear? The gradient descent, gradient, then learning rate.
Ma'am, can you repeat the example again?
Repeat what portion?
Example.
Example. I didn't give you the whole example. I'm just telling you, suppose this is your input x1, input x2. Okay, and there will be weights associated with here. Okay, then we have a hidden layer. So for the hidden layer, we always do the same thing. First, find sum, then your activation function. Okay, so we will find the sum, then we will use an activation function. So suppose you will find the net output with the help of this equation. You will get a net output, correct? This sum you will get, then you will apply an activation function. So for example, you are just going to use sigmoid. Okay, then what is the equation of sigmoid? It is 1 by 1 plus e power minus x. So this x is the net output, whatever weighted sum you got. Okay, there will be bias too. Okay, there will be a bias weight too associated with the hidden layer and as well as the output layer. Okay, but for the bias, most of the time bias value is 1, but there might be some weight value associated with here too. Okay, so whatever it is, the same thing, net output. So after you got an output, then you are going to do the same thing for this one, output layer. That means from here you get a hidden value. Okay, if suppose your value is 5 for this particular hidden node, so from here you will again do the same thing. 5 into maybe weight is 0.2, and for here 0.3 or something, then you will going to do the same thing for this output layer, w1 plus x. Then you will again get a net output value. Okay, so then you will again use the same sigmoid function for the output layer also, and you will get some value. Okay, for example, it is 0.2 and 0.1, but your actual output should be maybe 1 and here 0.99. So you are getting two different outputs, right? So you need to find the total output, means total error. Okay, how you calculate output? Half of prediction minus actual. So for this neuron, your actual output should be 1, but you are getting 0.2. So half of 1 minus 0.2 square, whatever will be the value, that's an error. Okay, so that's, I'm saying it's the 0.2. You can take like 0.7 or something. Okay, So this is just the output value after calculating this. Okay, this error 1. Suppose this is error for O1. Okay, the same thing will happen here also. Maybe the actual output is 9 here, but you are getting somewhere like 0.7. Okay, then you will again calculate the error of 0.9 minus 0.7 square. Maybe the answer is just 0.1. That's your error of O2. So you need to find the total error. So you will just combine these two values, error of this node and error of this output node. So you will get an error. Now once you get the error, you need to update the weights. How you are going to update? That means you have to update each of these weights, and that is to individually. So whatever error you got here, total update, when you will update here, it will be with respect to 5, weight 5. Okay, then again for this node, it can be with respect to 7. Then again, it can be with respect to 8 and so on. So whatever is the weight associated, you will calculate that thing. Then this one will be your, you can done it with the help of chain rule. Okay, the whole calculation part is a bit lengthy. I will give you an example link to understand that. Okay, just know the process. Feed forward the weighted sum, then you calculated activation function, mainly find the output, then you see what is the difference between predicted output and actual output, and that is your error or loss. Okay, once you find the loss, you have to try to minimize the weight, that means minimize the error. So your main aim of the backpropagation is to minimize the error. So how will it minimize the error? With the help of gradient descent. So what gradient descent does? It just checks with the help of the weights. Okay, gradient descent equation is this. Okay, this delta E is the gradient descent thing. Okay, this gradient descent part you have to calculate with the chain rule. After you got this value, then you will, this is old, this is new. Okay, uh, uh, sorry, this is old. So this portion you are going to calculate and update. This is your updated value. So this is the old minus learning rate into delta W. Okay, or delta W is nothing but this equation. Okay, so after that, once you calculate all this weight updated, then again it will feed forward the newly calculated values. Same process will happen again. Then again it will calculate the output. Again it will see whether error is minimum or not. Then if not, then it will again do the same process. It will just go on in cycle. Okay, that's it. So if you want to more, you can read a bit more. I can give you links. The next I want to tell about the dimensionality reduction. So it's all about the features, right? Your network can overfit and underfit. So your network will overfit when you will just train your model with too much of features. Okay, if your features is too many features, then maybe your network, your model is overfitting. And if you provide a bit very too less number of features, then your model can underfit. So to deal with the overfitting problem, we have a technique called dimensionality reduction. Okay, anyone has any idea about dimensionality reduction?
Yeah, is it same as the flattening of image?
Same as?
Flattening of image, like we are reducing three matrices of ICT into one dimensional array.
Yes, correct. So dimensional reduction, mainly what we do, we just convert the higher dimensional data set into lesser dimension. higher dimension. And dimensions are more like your features. Okay, so dimension reduction technique can be your feature selection. Okay, then you can also have other dimension reduction process like component factor based, projection based and all. So handling higher dimensional data is sometimes very difficult in practice. So this condition is known as the curse of dimensionality. Curse of dimensionality. This is the term. Okay, if you have like handling two higher dimensional data, then it's the curse of dimension. So if the dimensionality of the input data set increases, any machine learning algorithm can be more complex. Okay, so as the number of features increase, the number of samples also get increased proportionally, and the chance of overfitting also increases. So we need to apply dimensionality reduction processes. So by reducing the dimensions of the features, the space required to store the dataset also gets reduced. Then less computation training time will be required. Then reduced dimension of the features will also have to visualize it quickly. Okay, one of the process, as I said, is feature selection process. That means you are just selecting the subset of the relevant features and leaving out the irrelevant features. Okay, to increase the modality. So for feature selection, we have again different techniques like filter models. So in this case, dataset is just filtered and the subset will contain only the relevant features. So some of the usual techniques are correlation, chi-square test, and so many, ANOVA and all. That we also have a wrapper model. Okay. So wrapper method has the same goal as your filter method, but it takes a machine learning model for this evaluation. So this is, you can say, it has different model. To filter out the models, wrapper model use again different machine learning models. So some of the features are fed to the ML model, then evaluate the performance. Then performance decides whether to add those features or to remove to increase the accuracy of the model. Okay, then there are embedded methods. So embedded method checks the different training iterations. For this, we have again lasso, elastic net and all. Then we have also feature extraction method. Just like feature selection, we have feature extraction method. So embedded method, wrapper model, filter models are feature selection model. For feature extraction, we have very common one is the PCA. PCA is the principal component analysis. PC. And LDA is the linear discriminant analysis. Or you can say LDA. Okay, then we have also many different types of things. So what is PCA? Anyone have any idea what is PCA?
it might be for image, not particular image, which is more, I want to say, which should be, we will be using more for most uh, part of the image which will be using for the model. That will be a
Okay. So PCA is the feature extraction. So it's basically based on the variance. As you said, it's mainly used for image processing, and also you can use for regression sometimes. So we have two things, PCA and LDA. So basically PCA, we can find, suppose this is a features. So we find the variance, direction of maximal variance in case of PCA, and it is, PCA is your unsupervised process. Okay, I'm just telling both together, and LDA is your supervised process. The main principle for both is kind of same. Okay, so LDA is supervised and PCA is your unsupervised. That means it will simply ignore the class label. So PCA will find the direction of maximal variance. Suppose you have many higher dimensional values, then if you project it in a bit lower dimension, then means it's in a 3D space. So if you project it in lower dimension, so maybe you will have only these points. Okay, only the important thing. So in contrast, your LDA will attempt to find a feature subspace that will maximize the class separability. That means LDA is also used for classification. Okay, so suppose this is your features and this is another features set. So it will try to find the difference or maximize the class separability. This is class A and class B maybe, so it will try to maximize the class separability. Okay, so LDA makes assumption about normally distributed classes and equal class covariance. Okay, and on the other hand, PCA will simply give you the um, the unsupervised one, so it will only try to reduce the number of features. Okay, so both are used for dimensionality reduction, just that LDA has means a bit more useful because you can also use it for class separation. Okay, so PCAs, and they are more dominant for this PC, maybe this is one PC value and this is PC2 value. So component access that maximize the variance. It will simply try to maximize the variance and it will maximize the access between two class separation. That's it. Just if you want to go into more, you can check deep into these two methods. But for this one, just the common thing means basic knowledge is fine right now. Okay. So other from these two, so other than this, we have also backward feature elimination. So LDA part is mainly used for this one, so just leave it. Just remember for the PCA, it just converts the observation of the correlated features into set of linearly uncorrelated features. With the help of orthogonal, so it basically works the variance of each attribute. Suppose you need to predict model, you have various features x1, x2, x3, x4 and x5 and so on. So since you have too many things, features, what you can do, you can maybe combine these two and then you see the prediction, then you might combine these two, then again check the uh, uh, prediction, then again you might combine these two and so on. Then it will try to project all these things in a 3D thing. Okay, so there are too many dimensions. You are going to just take the correlated features and try to do the prediction in practical field. Okay, then other than PCA and LDA, we have backward elimination. So backward elimination technique is mainly used while developing your linear regression or logistic regression. So first, all the variables of your data set will be used for the training model. Then the performance will be checked. Then what you will do, you will just remove one feature. So first, suppose you have 5 features and you are seeing the prediction, then this is all you have. Okay, then you are going to reduce one. Maybe next time you just drop one, then you are going to check with the 5. Okay, then you reduce one again, then you check with the 3 and so on until there is no features to drop. Okay, that's the process. Then another word we have is the forward feature. So this is just the opposite of this one. So initially you will start with one feature, then see the prediction. Then you add 2 features, then you see prediction, then you add 3 features and so on. This is the opposite of this. Okay. So these are the various methods and there are also so many other features. So if you want to know more about dimensionality reduction algorithms, you can just research yourself for your project and all, and even for the future also. Okay, there is not just one algorithm, there are many types of things. Okay, so that's it for today. So actually your it is covered, your syllabus is complete. Tomorrow, maybe I can give you a test like mock test. It will be easier for you guys for the exam. Is it okay for you guys? Switch on the videos.
Yes, madam.